Okay, so I've got Ann Shields in the booth with me today. She is a career advisor of 30 years and founder of the Lighthouse Career Coaching Company in Rochester, New York. Does that fit the bill? Is there anything else you want to add to that resume?
Well, I guess I would put in there too, Ted, that I was a lost and confused uh, high school and college student. And so I did not have a clear direction, and many, many, many people don't. So I don't know how to add that to my title, but
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's literally the first question I'm going to ask you here is just you know, I think, before we started recording this, you asked me what this is all for, and I had a hard time answer. It seems a lot easier until you're asked the actual question. So and I'm really eager to learn as much about what you do as possible because, like we said, a lot of what you do seems to be helping people answer questions about their careers they don't necessarily even know how to ask. And so I think that's a good place to start because that's how I got introduced to you, our
Mhm.
friend Donald Asher. I asked him, how is there a person whose job it is to evaluate my skills and strengths and find where they would be best applied in the job market? So, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about how you think about helping a person do that?
Okay. Well, there's some myths out there. The follow your passion. I don't have a passion. There's a recent study at Stanford done, and they're one of the premier research universities, so it's not fluffy research.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But in the study, 80% of the participants could not name a passion.
Mm,
Lots of them had lots of interests. Lots of them have had periods of the time when they were really interested in something. But to say, follow your passion is not terribly helpful for job
mm-mm.
seekers of any age.
No.
So let's get that one off the table.
Okay.
Um,
That was my next question. I'll cross that off. I'll cross that off. Go ahead.
Another caution I have or myth is that you can do career assessments. And if you take the right one and answer all the questions, then you will get a computer result that says, here's what you should do.
Mm.
I'll tell you, the first time I did one of those was in high school. And what came back as the top profession was funeral director. You can just imagine how thrilled I was with that
Yeah,
assessment.
very flattering. Very
It was
flattering.
great.
Good.
But no one sat down with me to explain what that meant and what it didn't mean. So that was the first profession that was listed. So my understanding was this test is telling me that's what I should do.
Mm.
When I learned more about assessments in graduate school and since then, I realized that those assessments really can't tell you what you should do because the information that they put in is just a snapshot of you.
Mm.
And some of them you can trick, like how good of a best friend are you? You can fill out that survey and be the most wonderful, warm, giving, generous best friend anybody would ever find.
Yeah.
So you can manipulate it.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means it should be a piece of how people think about what they might want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have an analogy. Um, when people want to buy a house, they do not drive up to a curb with a for sale sign in front of the house, look at it and say, that's the one. That's the house we're going to buy. They've never stepped in the door. They don't know how many bedrooms there are. They
Mm.
don't know if the refrigerator is from 1947.
Mm.
They don't know if the basement is flooded. They don't know. It may look pretty on the outside, or somebody might have said, you're really going to like that house. But that's not how you buy a house.
No.
You have somebody who knows something about houses sit down with you, a real estate agent or a buyer's agent.
Mm.
And that person asks you questions. What are
Mm.
you looking for?
Yeah.
Ideally, what would you
Yeah.
like?
Right.
Minimally, what do you need? Well, ideally might be I want a wood burning fireplace. Uh, Okay, that's great. But what do you need? I need two full bathrooms because I don't want just one shower in my house. I
I
want at
see.
least.
I
So
see.
it's the need and the want.
Mm. So are these the
Then,
kind of questions you ask clients to get them to on the right track of thought, for,
yeah, it is. Because
so you
sometimes
can better help them?
people will come in and say, I'm going to be an engineer. Oh, okay. What do you know about engineering? Well, that I'm good at math and people said I'd be good at it. Oh, so you're buying the house from the curb.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I hear that a similar piece of advice from every expert on careers I ask is, it's so hard to know if something's right for you unless you've done it, or, you have sort of a depth of knowledge about what it is from somebody else. And so, a lot of those career assessment quizzes, or even from all the books I've read, haven't done much to clarify for me, where my best fit is. And so, I think the next best thing to actually going out and trying a bunch of jobs is to get a career advisor, right? Because
Mhm.
you guys are the ones that, have access to, you know, the options we don't know, because our options are really limited to the options we know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So another thing that's really terrible to say to people who are trying to figure it out is you can do anything you want. That is not helpful for somebody who doesn't know what they want,
Mm-hmm.
because it assumes that I know a lot about a lot of different things and I can pick one that I want.
Mm-hmm.
It's useless advice. We think
Mm-hmm.
we're helping out a young person or somebody else by saying you can do anything you want. No, don't ever say that to somebody, because if I knew, I wouldn't be asking this question, would I?
Right.
So no, I do like to start with people like, what have you been thinking of?
Mm.
What have you ruled out and why?
Okay.
Well, I ruled out teaching because I'll never make enough money. How much
Mm-hmm.
do teachers make? Well, not enough. Well, how much?
Well,
Well, I don't
I
really
mean, I'm
know.
I'm not getting paid much, so I mean, that sounds like my answer.
So, but one of the things, there's a great uh, YouTube video I could share with you, that what do teachers make? They make good human beings.
Mm. Yeah.
And it goes on and on about what teachers make.
Mm-hmm.
And bankers make money, but teachers make a lot of different things. So yeah, mom or dad might have said, you won't make any money doing that. That will be a waste of your skill set. But that young person might be exactly the type of person their parents would have wanted in the front of a classroom.
Yeah.
Someone who's smart and caring and thoughtful and encouraging. So there's more than making the money. Some of what's important is simply just saying to a student or a client, what's important to you? What do you
Mm-hmm.
want to make? Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to make an influence? Do you want to make just money?
Mm-hmm.
You want an opportunity to express yourself to a
Mm-hmm.
wider world?
Yeah.
Those aren't mutually exclusive,
Right.
but there's some give and take. I mean,
Sure.
you can make meaning
Absolutely.
in the world and still make decent money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple of guys at Stanford, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, have written a book called Designing Your Life, and it's got some great exercises in there, really kind of trying to blow some of the dichotomies out of the water, either this or this, either this or this.
Okay.
And I use stuff from their book all the time. Largely, it gets people to imagine beyond what they think they might be able to do, because as you said, we only know what we've heard about, read about, or seen in our family and friends.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I think a point you made back there is it seems a lot like the hardest part isn't doing the steps to get the job. It's just finding out what it is you want to put all that time and effort into.
You
You
know,
know.
that's it's like buying a house. You know,
Yeah.
you get into the car on a Saturday morning And you go and look at 5, 6, 7 houses, and you go home and you go, which one was that? I don't remember. Was that the one with the pool? Was that the one with the good deck? You can investigate things pretty superficially and rule some things out.
Mm-hmm.
You can read something that's real about what that job is.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
in that job, what were you likely to do? And some things that you can look at are, God, you can Google what's it like to be an X, and you can get all kinds of things. Syracuse University has some podcasts that I don't know if everybody can jump in and listen to them. I wouldn't be surprised. People just doing, they tweet from their day.
A what?
They tweet from their day.
Okay.
So someone might be a criminal defense lawyer, and every hour and a half they tweet out what they're doing at that moment.
I see.
So you want to get a sense of what do people actually do.
Yeah, yeah.
But an accountant at a giant auditing firm like Price Waterhouse is not doing the same thing as an accountant at a private school down the road, not doing the same kind of work and experience as someone who specializes in taxes. They're all called the same thing, but their jobs are really completely different. So one way to test things out is to go allegedly on a drive, talk to people. What do you do? What do you like about it? What skills do you use? What do you wish you had known before you decided to do this? What blindsided you?
Yeah.
And that in the terms of design thinking is prototyping.
Yep.
Going out and getting a little piece of information, and you're looking at it and you say, okay, that's interesting. I'm going to take it a little further. That's interesting. I'm going to take a little further. And at some point you might be, this is no longer interesting. What would it be called if I did more of this and less of this? Oh, that would be called a such and such.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so again, in the Designing Your Life book, the guys call it wayfinding. You try a little something and you move on. You try a little something and you move on.
It's really interesting because that's exactly I asked Donald Asher when I did an interview with him what his best piece of advice was, and he said, the best results he's ever heard anybody get and that he's always got is just from people job hopping. And I think that's an answer people don't want to hear, because that can be a painful, long process to get to, but it does seem to be the consistent idea I'm hearing from, you guys.
But job hopping for the sake of job hopping is kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, yeah.
When I'm working with a young adult, I try to figure out, help them figure out what direction do they want to start hopping.
Yeah, yes, yeah, right.
And sort of like, I want to get to Boston and I'm going to drive or ride my bike. I know that from where I am now, I need to go due east.
Yeah.
So, I just need to know if I'm going to go to Boston, I have to go that way. Along the way, I might find roads blocked or throughways and I can't ride my bike. So I'm going to have to tweak as I'm going to get to where I want to be.
Absolutely.
Partway along the ride, I might realize that I don't want to go to Boston. I want to go to Burlington, Vermont.
Right.
Because I'm cutting through Vermont and it's gorgeous.
Right.
Why do I want to go to Boston?
Yeah. I mean,
so with the hopping, it gives you a chance to, I'm here. I looked at this house. It's got these nice things, but not these things. So I'm going to look at another one, and I'll look at another one, and I'll look at another one. And maybe you buy one house and it stays, you keep it forever and ever, but a lot of people don't. Young adults that are roughly your age are probably, let's say the people who are in college right now might have 6 or 7 different jobs by the time they're in their early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to get it right out the bat. And if you do, good for you. And you're going to be bored in about 3 or 4 years, because if you're doing the same job at 22 that and you're doing it at 37, really?
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't
Where's
happen.
the interest? Where's the intellectual curiosity? Where's the growth? Where's the motivation?
Yeah, and that's just not how the market is anymore, it seems, like people just aren't it's so unrealistic to find a job and spend your career there. But, the alternative you offered was, just if you have an idea of the direction you want to go, um, that is probably better than just knowing what you want to do in the first place, because that you might be wrong, right? We're notoriously bad at predicting what's gonna make us happy.
Especially when you think, I want to be an X. And the X that you have in your imagination is something that you would have after 15 years and 4 promotions.
Mm,
I want to be a doctor. Great. Are you ready, really ready to put in all of that time as an undergrad, as a grad student with residencies, years and years and years, and you still might not get the job you want?
yeah,
And medicine has changed.
yeah,
So you get to the end and you say, I'm spending more time with insurance companies than I am with patients. This isn't what I thought.
yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, then that's like a tragic situation because, you know, um, I think that just actually segues me to the next question here is perfectly because something I would imagine is missed about your job is just how compassionate and empathetic and patient you have to be for these people because, these career choices are very high stakes for people. You could spend years thinking this is what is going to be it, and then, end up realizing that you were going the wrong way for a long time, and people are really afraid of that. So, um, I guess what I would ask after that is, how do you first of all, like, how do you personally think about helping these people? Because, a lot of what you do is about your relationship with them.
Mhm.
And I could imagine somebody who goes and sees a career counselor and they're just expected to know all these answers to these questions already, and they're afraid to answer them because they don't want to settle their fate right there. And,
Oh, yeah,
that-
that's
yeah,
a big piece of it. And for some people, it's like, I don't want to admit that I don't know what I want to do
yeah,
because the people around me seem to know what they want to do. In
yeah,
college, it's like
yeah.
half the people on this side want to be lawyers, the other half want to be doctors, and the other half, which doesn't actually exist, thinks they want to go into consulting. It's like 3 professions.
Right,
That's it,
right.
3,
Yeah,
but they don't know what it is.
yeah.
So a big piece of what I do is talk about, you don't have to get it right the first time. Those myths, they haven't been true. They're myths. They haven't been true forever. I mean, it's
Mm,
just forever, but they keep getting perpetuated.
mhm.
The Wall Street Journal, every graduation time will have an article about, oh, so many people have applied for 500 jobs and they haven't gotten one yet. Okay, but are they actually fit for the jobs they're applying for? Do they actually want them? Or are they just applying for everything? If somebody has a sense of, I'm eager to learn, I know what this work is about, I know how I can contribute, that's going to be a much better application, a much better interview than spending time sending out 700 resumes.
Mm,
So be curious, be intellectually curious.
yeah,
Know that the first job is going to lead you to an environment and people who are pretty similar to you.
mm,
They have the same skills, they have the same interests, and they will introduce you, or through that work, you'll be introduced to other types of work and other types of people that might be more appealing. So you do one of those little shifts and you learn something about this kind of work and you realize, I actually like this part of my job that is nothing like what I did in the first job, but I want to do more of this. So I'm going to do a certificate class, or I'm going to get some experience, and I'm going to move over this way and then move up. When you think about the career path, the image that I heard this weekend is more like a jungle gym. It's not a ladder. It's not a path. The way the world of work is developing and has been developing for the past 20 years is jungle gym. You go up, you move over, you go up, you move over, you go back, you stop out for a little while, you go up.
Yeah, and so it sounds like what you're saying is a lot of what you do is you're trying to get people to reflect the right way. So they come to you with an idea or their fears or their hopes, and you kind of is it sort of like a therapist where you're not telling them directly what to do, but you're nudging them in the right
No,
way
no,
to think
because
about it?
I don't know what they'll be happy in. I'm not inside them.
Mm,
I go, whether people would agree with this or not, I go with the assumption that the individual in front of me will know best what will make them happiest.
yeah, okay.
And so, first, if for some people, it's these values are incredibly important for me, and I don't want to compromise them through my work. Okay, so that's where we'll start.
I see.
And that will start to form the compass that will help
Mm,
us know, am I going east, am I going west, what direction am I going to
mm,
go?
I see. I
I
see.
hate math. I'm good at math, but I hate it.
Yeah,
Okay, so that rules out a bunch of job
yeah.
titles that are highly quantitative. Okay, get rid of those. Now where are we? And it's helping them understand they have agency, that they actually can choose, and it's okay if they make a mistake. In fact, they should count on it,
Mm,
because people don't stay in their first jobs
yeah.
because they haven't known themselves well enough. Here's something I say to my clients: think about who you were 5 years ago. Now close your eyes and picture that person, a
Okay.
picture that was taken of you at some event. Who were you? Who were your friends? What did you like to do with your time? What did you think was funny? Okay, open your eyes. Are you that person now? Oh, no way.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to do that again. That was too painful.
But 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 if that's how much you've grown in 5 years, who will you be 5 years from now? You'll clearly be the same person, but you won't be the same person.
Right, right.
And so the whole idea of deciding what I'm going to do for the rest of my life is actually just kind of, I won't say the word I'm thinking, bogus.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, no, thank you. That actually helps a lot. It just seems like people are so I think honestly one of the points that sticks out most is what you said is busting that myth that you should know what it is you're going to do or you're going to be on one path the whole time. And it's hard to sort of wrap your head around that because we can't predict the future, and things only make sense looking backwards.
And if I pick wrong, my life is screwed forever.
Yeah, yeah, so that's just a bad question to ask, right?
It is. Sometimes I also use the analogy of you're going shoe shopping. You know you need a certain kind of shoe. You can go and just buy the first pair you see or try
Mm,
on,
I see.
or you can try on every shoe in the mall and still can't make up your mind because it's going to be the one shoe you're going to wear for the rest of your life, and it has to be the perfect shoe.
Hmm.
No, it's just a shoe.
Right. I see. Okay. So let's say a person does have a little bit of an idea of the direction that they
Mhm.
want, and they have an idea of a general idea what their skills are, what their strengths are, what they want to be
Mhm.
doing, the direction they want to be going in, but they're having a really hard time finding jobs in their environment or at least thinking of the kind of job that will do that because I've come across there's been a lot of times where I've discovered careers that I would have never even thought of to exist, you know what I mean? Why haven't I been doing this the whole time? And so I think just going through a discovery phase and trying to find anything related to that or people that are doing something similar. There's some good advice in the career book of just doing Google searches with keywords and then, jobs. And then that might not lead you to the job, but it might expand your view of what's possible, and that could open a lot of pathways for you.
Mhm.
So, let's just, for practical purposes, we'll take me here. Let's say my real passion is the thing I get really excited about and would love to do is to learn and apply psychology. Right? This is my real passion. And then I also know that I like collaborating with other people, talking to them like you, um, interview style, and then finding the intersection of that. So this is where I'm at.
Mhm.
This is as far as I know. What advice would you give to somebody to, learn more about what how they should think, where they should spend their time and effort looking and whatnot.
Well, I'd want to know what you know already and
Okay.
what you've ruled out.
Mm.
Have you considered a research degree, a PhD in research in psychology?
Mm.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's going to rule out some things. What kind of people do you want to be working with and helping? Old people? People with neurological challenges? People who have had real traumatic experiences? Normal people? Little kids? Teenagers? People who feel suicidal? I mean, yeah, you want to help people, but you need to be a bit more specific. What group do you think would be most interesting right now?
I see. And so what do you think about people who might be afraid to get too specific because they don't want to close, does that just kind of go back to the point you made earlier where don't be so afraid to try a shoe on or
Yeah, I think the worst thing any of us can do is to do nothing and agonize.
mm,
Do something. Talk to
yeah.
somebody who's working at an adolescent treatment center for substance abuse. Just
Mm,
say, what do you do all day?
mm,
What's stressful? What's exciting? What did you think you'd be doing when you were this age? If you were me, where would you go to learn more about this in case I might want to do more of this?
okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
do basic investigative research by talking to people. You
Mm,
don't have to take the job to find out about it. Talk to several people who are doing the job, because if you only talk to one, then you have an N of one in your research.
mm,
And an N of one is not something I would put money on if I was
right.
betting.
Mm, I see. So you're talking about kind of applying the law of large numbers here. Your chances are much better the more times you roll a dice of hitting a six than if you're just trying to, get lucky and roll that six the
Well,
first.
yeah, but we're not really talking about luck, because each time I talk to somebody, I get a little bit more knowledge. And so my questions can get better. So
Mm,
maybe I don't want to work with late adolescents. Really,
mhm.
I'd be more interested in working with 8, 9, 10-year-olds, because they're still pretty malleable and their hormones haven't kicked in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you just said there really resonates with me is I realized a lot of my problem was I just didn't know what questions to ask. And finding the answers to these things in my head are much easier if I actually know what to ask, right?
You can Google questions I should ask about jobs or information interview questions. There are lists and lists and lists. And you can just say, which of these questions actually are something that would help me make a decision? Because some of them won't really be relevant. It's like I'm concerned about what my lifestyle will be like. Okay, then ask that. What are you concerned about? Get those fears cleared away. Are my fears real, or are they in my head
Mm,
because I'm imagining and because I'm just afraid to commit?
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, I just, I think I see so many people, myself included. Maybe I'm projecting onto other people, but it's a really intimidating task to go forward with, and I think um I guess I think people probably get kind of frustrated with how long they have to spend asking themselves these questions and planning and and all that, because it's been I mean, kind of a long time it took me to realize that I didn't want to do research, right? I'm embarrassed to admit how long it took me to realize that.
Well, because that's what everyone should want to do.
Right, right,
That's the
right.
prestigious thing. If you
Exactly.
study psychology, of course you're going to do research.
Yep.
Otherwise, you could just be a social worker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, like, oh, these other things are just, ugh.
Dude, I almost hate how accurate you are with all that. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. So, man, I'm glad you just said that, because it means you kind of understand my position here. And that's what I mean. You're a lot of what you do is being at least empathetic, probably pretty compassionate to their position, and knowing what the struggles a person's going through with this. And so, okay, where were we? You know, to what you were saying there about that's what you should be doing if you're into this. Right. We make these assumptions about what our options are limited to, and what. So I stopped. I didn't go get my master's degree, not because I like school a lot, but I wasn't passionate about becoming a social worker. I wasn't really passionate about doing research. I didn't want to go get my PhD. And really, it took me sort of a long time to realize that a lot of what I wanted to do was more or less interview people, and talk to them, and use whatever background in psychology I have, and ultimately apply it to education.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, how does a person like me, right? Say somebody does get out of that bubble of thinking this is what you should do. How does a person then start finding jobs that have the intersect? Do you have any thoughts, or is that too?
Well, I do actually. And, it's like, oh, it's going to be so much work. It's going to be so hard. If I go on LinkedIn, it's going to take forever. Sometimes I tell people, set an alarm clock, to set the alarm on your phone for 15 minutes. If you went to college, look up your school and just do the filter for my school, and then look at the people who majored in psychology for the past 10 years.
Mm,
And then you don't read their profiles, you're going to skim. Can you get 60 profiles in front of your eyes in 15 minutes?
mhm,
Flag the people who have job titles that look interesting, because you can always go back.
mm,
But if you go one at a time, it's a freaking rabbit hole.
yeah,
You'll spend an hour and you'll say, well, that was the biggest waste of time.
yeah,
But in 15 minutes, you can say, I never knew that existed. That sounds pretty cool. I wonder how they got there. Do I need to get your degree for that?
I see. Yeah.
So you're
Oh,
window shopping,
that's
your
yeah.
speed window shopping.
Those are see, what you just did there is a really good example of how, if anybody ends up watching this, I just want them to know what she just said there is a perfect example of how a career advisor or career coach can help you, because that isn't something I would have ever even thought to do. But if you're following along, like, you can see how valuable just looking up what other people who have got the same degree ended up doing. And um I'm probably going to do that after this interviews.
But really, you had to do it with an alarm.
Yeah, an
And
alarm.
then you're like, oh my gosh, 15 minutes, I got that. I'm going to do another 15 minutes on Sunday. I'm going to do another 15 minutes. What if I went from 10 years to 20 years?
Mm,
One of the reasons I say do it in the close age range is because they're doing the jobs that will most likely be the jobs that you'd be applying to.
mm,
So if you look up people who have a PhD and have been working for 20 years, their role, their type of work probably is not even going to exist anymore because of AI.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you want to see what people are doing. Like, I want to know what direction I can head. These directions sound interesting,
yeah,
or they seem interesting to me now. So I'll just find out some more information. But staying and agonizing of what if I don't like that? Well, you're adding no information. So of course you're going to spin in a circle.
yeah, yeah. um Do you have any other like little hacks like that? I mean, see,
I
these
do.
these are the kind of things. I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to get free service out of you, but like, if there's anything I want to highlight here, it's something as simple and seemingly obvious as what you said there, and how far that can um, take a person. It could, change your life, and little things like that are often what tips the scale of success, career success or not, Would
Well,
you agree with
career,
that?
that's another one. Career. Career is something you have looked back on and say, oh, yeah, that led to that, led to that,
Mm,
that. Because
mm.
you can't project what your career is going to be outward because you don't know who you're going to be next year, never mind
Ah,
15 years from now,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So what you're looking for is the next cool opportunity.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That seems. Would it be fair to say that that is sort of the theme of your philosophy on all this?
Yeah, find something that's interesting and jump in and see what it's like. And you'll learn from that. I don't like this, I don't like this, but this stuff's interesting. What would that be called? Okay, that's what I'm going to look at next.
Mm,
But to do it up front by talking to people, like by just playing around on LinkedIn to see what's out there. You
mm.
don't even have to contact anybody, just what's out there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So thank you so much. I mean, y- y- you know, hats off to people like you because, like I said, these are some of the biggest decisions we end up making. And so having
And they're
somebody,
frightening
yeah,
because it feels like it's now or never. If I pick the wrong thing, my life is going to be over. But
yeah,
it's not. You're going to have, young people are going to have 6, 7, 8 jobs by the time they're early 30s. So consider that a gift.
yeah, yeah. Look, yeah, yeah. Man, so I think, if there's a theme that I could summarize all this in, I guess, for people that I would show this to is just try to get out of the fear and narrow thought process of thinking, I got to have the answers now, and I got to have my career now. That analogy you made about a career is something you look back at, I think, could probably give people a lot of the courage that they would need, and um, start getting them to open up a little bit, open their minds, and put the effort into actually looking around and expanding their base. So thank you so much.
You're
Um,
welcome. I kind of like this work.
yeah, you mean being a career advisor?
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. People come to me when they're worried and afraid. They want answers. I don't give them answers. I give them confidence. I give
Mm,
them tools.
yeah, yeah,
I believe in them when they don't believe in themselves.
yep, yeah,
And people let me into those places of fear and doubt.
mm-hmm,
It's humbling.
mm-hmm,
And to see somebody go, oh, I don't have to get it right. Oh, I could combine this interest and this interest. I don't have to pick one. Yeah, combine them all. The world
yeah,
of work is huge.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is a cool job. I mean, and you've been doing it for 30 years now?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean,
You
you
don't want to
probably
know how I
changed.
get you want to know how I got here?
Oh yeah, yeah, tell me that
Well,
story.
in college I went to one career counselor who was very corporate focused. And I got some interviews and I got some offers, but just they didn't feel right. I could, yeah, I can do those,
You're
but
a
I don't
history major,
want
is
to
that
do
right?
those jobs. Pardon me?
You started off as a history major?
Hmm.
That okay,
Yeah. Okay. So I can teach. I can be a lawyer or what? I could work in a museum. So I didn't click with this guy. He was great for some people, but he wasn't a good fit for me.
Mm,
So I met with somebody else who said, if you could do anything and no one would laugh and money wasn't an issue, what would you want to do? I said, I'd be a camp counselor. I want to be someplace informal. I want to be helping people. I want to be able to be me. I want to be able to wear jeans. Um, I want to be able to laugh sometimes, be serious sometimes, and be part of education somehow. But I
Mm,
don't want to be in a classroom.
yeah.
And she said, "Well, where could you do that stuff?" Like, I have no idea. Well, let's think. And I ended up, my first couple jobs were working on college campuses, which were pretty much like working at summer camps
Mm,
because I worked in student life. And
mm,
so I wasn't teaching, but I was helping people figure out what it means to be in college, how to make choices, how to be responsible for themselves, how to live apart from their families, and how
hmm.
not to not burn the place down or end up in the hospital, you know, with alcohol poisoning. It sort of fit. It never had occurred to me to go to, what would you like to do? Well, I
Yeah,
can't do what I like because it's not realistic. It doesn't really exist. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But
right.
isn't it better
Yeah.
to think about what you'd really like and compromise down?
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, would you say that a lot of your clients, the ones that you've helped, become really, would you say that they followed a similar path to how you fell into your, uh,
Yeah, they move around
mhm,
because they realize I'm growing and changing and learning.
mm,
These questions have been answered. Now I'm really curious about these other questions. And could I do it over here? And what could I learn? And the theme is be curious, ask questions, and just try it. But you don't have to try it by jumping in. You can try it by talking to people. You can try it by asking somebody, "Hey, can I hang out at your office for half a day and just see what it's like and get a feel for what it's like?"
mm, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, that's really good because, like, based on what I know about other people's careers like you or, a lot of other people I really look up to, a lot of times they didn't have what they're doing in mind at the outset. And so, hearing that from people like you or Dr. Asher or, uh, even other people, successful people that I'm, you know, looking up to and role modeling, it's very encouraging to me to see hear your guys' stories, um, about, how lost you were at one time. And
We only
then
ever
seeing how
hear the
successful.
stories of, I wanted to be a doctor and I became a doctor and I stayed a doctor. I became an engineer and I built bridges, and that's how. But we don't realize, and I'll put I'll put myself on the line. Probably more than half of the people, if you ask the adults, did you think you'd be doing this when you were in high school or college? They would laugh. It's like, I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, that's cool. That's yeah. I mean, um, that's just encouraging because, oh man, it can be a dark place. Like
Mhm.
sometimes, it can be a really dark place, and that uncertainty is almost the worst part. You know,
Mhm.
because it makes you not want to do anything. It makes you feel a
It's
bit hopeless.
paralyzing. It's
Yeah.
paralyzing. Um, yeah. So if people, are feeling that way, find someone to talk to. It can be a career counselor, it can be a guidance counselor in high school, it can be an older cousin, someone to help you just think beyond the boundaries that you have, just because for a young person, you just haven't lived long enough to know what's
Mm.
out there.
Yeah, no, this idea of talking to a lot of people, like, um, Doctor, hate to keep bringing him up, but he has a book called "Cracking the Hidden Job Market," and even in his other books, his piece of advice is to talk to a lot of people
Mhm.
and you have to come into contact with them and have real conversations about what it is they do, what you want to do. You have to know you have to give them something to work with. And um, I think if you get in that sort of state of mind or that habit, those are your best chances for finding those strokes of luck. We hear about these stories of people who, they find a great break, a great lucky career break, and we're like, well, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah, well, some people win the lotto. They
Yeah.
mean multiple millions of dollars. Yeah. Are you going to stand at Walgreens and just keep buying tickets all day, hoping
Yeah.
that this happens?
Yeah.
Uh, Don is probably, Dr. Asher is probably one of the most intellectually curious people I have ever met. He probably reads more books a year than anybody else I know.
Yeah.
He's he is he's brilliant anyway, but he's brilliant in large part because he asks questions and he's curious.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm.
that's not hard to do. Just be
Yeah.
curious. Instead of being
Yeah.
afraid, ask, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what that is. Oh, geez, go out and find out.
Well,
It's not
I
hard.
mean, that's such a good, I mean, that's a really interesting point because, I never really thought about it from this point of view, but, I was talking to my girlfriend and she was explaining, I was kind of talking to her about all these ideas, and she's like, well, what about for introverts?
I'm an introvert, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I had to work myself up. Before we got on this call, I was walking around my office, my family room, like, okay, get ready, get psyched. You're going to have to do this. And
You're
as
doing
soon as
great,
we
by the way. Is this your
finished,
first interview?
pardon me?
Is
Oh,
this the
no, I've
first?
done interviews
Okay.
before, but
Okay.
it's like I'm going to talk to somebody I don't know, and my voice is going to go out to I don't know how many people.
Right.
Say something stupid, but mostly it's that it's draining for me. I'm
Mm.
excited while I'm doing it, and when we get off this call, I'm just going to go. I'm done for the day. No matter what is still on my to-do list, like I'm done.
Wow. Well, I'm flattered for that you're doing this with me then. So thank you so much. I mean, there's a lot I'd want to ask you, but
Well, let's do it again sometime.
yeah, I would really love to do that.
Yeah.
So so why don't no rush at all. We can talk about this as long as you want, but I like to give my guests an open-ended question of is there anything that you think I should have brought up, or is there an idea that you would want to be asked about, or something you'd want to express you haven't got a chance to? The floor is yours.
I think we're our own biggest enemies when it comes to trying to think about what kind of work we would enjoy and make us happy.
Go on.
We worry about what other people will think.
Mm.
Oh, you waste your education if you become a teacher. You should go do something else.
Mm.
Oh, social work? You don't want to go and get your PhD in research? Everybody in our family is lawyers, so why would you want to go and work at a nonprofit that works with food sustainability? I mean, that really, it's not prestigious enough. We get in our own way.
Mm.
What would
Mm.
excite me?
Yeah.
What would excite me now? Who
Mm.
I am now? What am I curious about? What problems do I want to help solve? But if we get out of our own way with worrying about fear, with worrying about money and what other people will think, at this stage, you're just thinking about what you want to do.
Mm.
You aren't even making any commitments.
Mm. And so you're saying so I think what you're suggesting is we're our own biggest enemy because we stop ourselves before we even get to the process that would help us most.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, you think about going off a high dive. You're too afraid to even climb the ladder because it's going to be way too hard. It's going to be way too hard. Well, yeah, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be a new experience, but at least climb the ladder and see what it's like.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So we're our own, I hear things like that sometimes. Sometimes I hear things like that and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do with that, but that context helps. So if you were to say a message to, say, a high school or early college student, would you say, um, don't let other people uh, deter you, or don't stop yourself from thinking positively or optimistically or open? Is
Yeah,
that?
I would say you're the one who's going to have to live your life. The people who are around you are trying to be helpful and share their experience of the world.
Mm.
So I
And
wouldn't
often,
say I wouldn't say ignore it, but it's your life. Be curious. See
mm,
what excites you. It
Mm,
doesn't have to be a passion.
mm,
If right now what really upsets you is what's going on with the rollback of voting rights, okay, so go look at what that's in, see what's there, because that problem needs people in public relations and photographers, and they need accountants, and they need consultants, and they need teachers, and they need some of everything. So a different way of coming at it is, what problems do I want to solve, and what can I contribute to that? But we get in our own ways by saying, I'm afraid if I make the wrong choice. Yeah, assume you're going to make the wrong choice the first time because you just don't know enough.
yeah. I think I face that problem a lot because
Well, get over it.
yeah, getting over well, I think what made me realize what I should get over that is just realizing how often people are trying to assign me a role, and how most people are always doing that to each other. This is what you're capable of, this is what's realistic, this is the direction that these are your only real options here. Don't think, and they shut everything out. And once I kind of got a grasp of what that meant myself, I felt a lot more relaxed and a lot just more confident, like you said, to just open my mind and do what I think is best. So
Sometimes I just say, I'm not your parent. I don't give a rat's patootie what you do with the rest of your life. It doesn't matter to me. My prestige, my status in our community is not tied to what you decide to do.
mm,
I do what I do because I think people are capable of way more than they can imagine. And if they just believe in themselves and give themselves permission, they will find work that they like. And
mm,
that will lead them to something else they like. And that will lead them to something else they like.
mm. Yeah, and there's so few people that do that for us, so um
People mean well,
yeah,
but I have no stake in what you decide to do with your bachelor's in psychology.
yeah,
So when you start thinking about, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, it's fun. I'm going along for the ride because I'm still learning. I don't know all the
uh,
jobs that are out there.
yeah, yeah. Oh
Well,
man.
we've gone way, way over our time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Let's do this again.
let's end that there. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it. It was really nice to interview you.
Well, thanks so much for reaching out. And if you see Dr. Asher, please tell him, hey.
All right, I can remember that. I can remember that. We'll
It's
do.
that simple. Hey,
Cool. Thank you.
take care.